you are live, please unmute.
Welcome. Thank you. Excellent.
You didn't hear from me. All right.
Oh, okay.
That's what I think. Very much.
Working here.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. How'd you know that? Who said that? Who was talking on the radio about that?
Was it Mike?
Yes.
CCM?
Yeah. And I heard where to look for you. Now I gotta watch out.
Yeah, yep.
Right behind the.
Is that because of my
Behind
bad
the,
behavior?
the reporter. And the Santa Slade. You're really close. You're really genius. Actually, that was
Good afternoon. We will begin this special session of the Board of Commissioners. It's 12:32, and we'll start with the pledge, and I think we'll have our administrator who's speaking at the VFW Hall this Saturday deliver or lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
At 11 o'clock. Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kramer.
Present.
Commissioner O'Rourke.
Present.
Commissioner Rexroad.
Present.
Chairman Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Here.
Commissioner Eldire.
Here.
Commissioner Lautner.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. At this time, we have our first public comment opportunity for the meeting. You have 3 minutes to speak to us if you'd like. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Thanks for being here. Go.
Mr. Chairman, can we back up and approve the agenda? Or
It's not on my agenda.
I missed it because it's not on here. So, no.
Okay,
Yeah, we ought to do that. We have 2 items listed on the agenda. Is there anyone willing to make a motion to approve or in addition?
I would make a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Discussion? Commissioner Lautner?
Well, I was actually hoping to remove item B, or have discussion at least, and we could probably do discussion then, but just about our process, and perhaps move that to Tuesday to our executive meeting per our understanding. If you want to discuss it then, just put B down as discussion. I would, if they amend the agenda to say discussion, I would be comfortable with that.
Any discussion on that amendment? Yes. Commissioner.
The reason that it is on there today is because this is an issue we would like to get rolling right away. We have someone who can do it and is committed to be done by the end of the year. And if we hold it off to the executive and then the regular agenda, that puts it off a good 2.5 weeks, which is very critical time. So that's why it's on the agenda
Other
for
comments?
all of us to consider today.
Commissioner Rose?
Yes, I'd like to add that with the holiday season coming up and just the timing of it, we did promise the employees that we would act as quickly as possible on this. And by moving this up to be acted on today versus November 21st, I feel like we are following through with our promise to the employees to act on gaining a clear understanding of where we're at, and where we need to go.
Mr. Chairman, didn't want to get into the discussion of all this. I think we're circumventing our process, so that's why I asked for it to be removed. If I'm voted on that, I have a lot more discussion further on.
So
but
are
this is
you
not the place for
making a
discussion.
motion to amend the agenda?
Yes, I am.
I'll support that amendment.
Moved and seconded. All those in support of that motion say aye.
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 Opposed, say aye.
Now, discussion. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You opened it up for discussion and closed it right off again.
We now have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda. All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
We have an agenda approved 5-2. Thank you. Now, and thanks for reminding me, Melinda, about not skipping that step. Now, Bill, you're on.
Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township, and absolutely, I don't care how many canvassing things you do, we demand no fraud in our Leelanau County elections, and we can't be guaranteed that Leelanau County or any county in the country without one person, one ballot, one vote, one day, get rid of this early voting, 1 day voting. The handout has 2 parts. I'm just going to stand because it's hard to get up. First part is a video that it's a great one. If you haven't seen it yet, 17 minutes. It came out, I think, in 2020 yet, right after the election. It showed all the fraud there. So if you were to Google the truth about the 2020 election, you could find it. Watch that video. This is what was on the screen at the end of the video, last 2 or 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I'll just read a couple of them. The second one down, no sitting president in 132 years has ever gained votes between his first and second race and lost re-election. Trump won at least 11 million votes. I'd say that's a gain, right? 11 million. He had the highest vote, except for supposedly Biden's, of any president. So anyway, but yet he still didn't become president. Going down to the fourth one, Biden underperformed Hillary Clinton's 2016 vote in every major metro area, yet somehow outperformed her in the major swing states of Milwaukee, Detroit, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. And finally, down at the bottom, last couple there, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Thomas Jefferson. If this election was compromised and domestic and foreign interference altered the outcome, then the millions of voters and lawmakers all across the country peacefully calling for election integrity are courageous, patriotic Americans simply calling for the truth we all deserve. The truth is just the beginning to be uncovered. I was in the meeting of the Board of Canvassers. Michelle led. It was very cordial, helpful, leaning out to us to make sure we got the handouts, a few of us. And so that was good. But what I understood was a great complexity of this whole thing. and like, oh, we've got to do this and we've got to make sure, and I've got training and such. If you have paper ballots, 1 day voting, you won't have all this mess and people will have verification. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Give you a minute to take your sign. Any other public comment? Thank you for attending, and we will have another public comment opportunity at the end of this meeting. We now turn to our commissioner comments. Yes, Commissioner Alger.
One of my constituents asked, and I wondered if I should read this during public comment or commissioner. One of my constituents asked me to read this letter. It said, "Dear Leelanau Commissioners, I am sitting at a local coffee shop because literally there is no consistent internet in my central Cleveland Township home. My doctor can't send me any test results. My daughter sits at a very gracious local restaurant to do her college homework. My friends think I'm a jerk because I don't respond, because I don't get their messages. I can't get statements from my bank. Scan a Q code, stream a movie, right. I could not even send you this message without leaving home. Please don't think your job is anywhere near done bringing cell service and internet to the county. We haven't received 1 ounce of improvement over the past several years. Please push hard to help us live a 21st century life."
Thank you. Any other commissioner comment? We now turn to our agenda, and we have 2 items, and we'll start with the item with the clerk. Thank you, Michelle, for being here. You did hear Bill's comment about your meeting this morning.
Good.
Thank you, Bill.
One of our canvassers is here.
And Eric was there. Yes.
It went smooth. We certified the election from Tuesday. And if any of you had a chance, I might be coming next week to show you. We had that new program or reporting for elections night with the map and stuff. And it was a good trial run, being a small election, and we learned some things. So I'm gonna hopefully come next week and be able to show you. There were a few people in our meeting, and one of the gentlemen came to the office and we just showed him just some different, it's a little different. Hopefully it will save the voters some time and be a little bit easier for them when they're looking for results, a little quicker than going through 200 pages. So we'll see. We liked it. It was much easier to upload. So what I have before you is what I presented before, and I did bring hard copies if anyone needed it. I did send it via email last night, but this is the agreement between Leelanau County and all of the townships. I'm waiting for one more township that'll be, their board meeting is tonight at 7, so I'll come back in tonight once she sends me her signed copy, so then I can upload it to the state, hopefully about 8 or 9 tonight. I think you've all, this is the 2nd or 3rd time I've sent it to you. I don't know if you need me to go through the whole thing, but it does, the agreement makes each county or township represented by their respective clerks, and it outlines the process that we'll use for early voting. And one of my canvassers had just told me, I guess the presidential primary has been announced that it will be on February 27th, which means that we would start early voting for the presidential on February 17th, and it will go through Sunday, the 25th, and it would be here at this building. We have to have the agreement. It's required by the state, and we've agreed between myself and the other township clerks and all the boards, like I said, except one, and I anticipate it's Solon that meets tonight. They're supposed to approve it, but I don't know if you want me to go through the whole thing, if you have any questions for me, or.
I think you went through it the last time
I
you presented to us.
I
So
have.
don't have any specific
Yeah, the only question I had was maybe second paragraph down, it talked about the clerks being allowed to be, what is the term?
Yep.
Basically in charge of their election.
They would
Thank
be,
you, election supervisor.
Yep.
So in that is But is this election supervisor, is that going to be yourself because it's here, or will?
It's the municipality served at the sites will be all of them. And then it calls for, I think,
So
an
like if
additional,
you're there that day, will that clerk be supervisor that day?
they'd be a site supervisor. It will still go through me and through my election coordinator. But most of the clerks have expressed an interest in wanting to come and be a site supervisor. We already have one new clerk and we've got a new one that's coming into office, I believe, in December. So we would want them to be mentoring with someone, wouldn't want to leave them here by themselves. I plan to be here also every day, but a lot of the clerks seem interested. It's just hard because they've got other duties to do. And if they don't have an active deputy, but they are all welcome, and that's part of our agreement, is to collectively allow. I've got one clerk that's interested in doing possibly a couple days, so that would be very helpful.
That's great. That's all I just wanted.
Oh, okay, yep.
To go, that they do have the opportunity.
Absolutely.
To be involved as much or
They-
as
that's-
little as they want.
That's part of the promise they've made with me taking it on at the county level.
So does anybody have a motion? Yes, Commissioner Lautner.
I would move to, well, it's not really to recommend because this is a special meeting. So I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the agreement for election services between Leelanau County and Bingham Township, Centerville Township, Cleveland Township, Charter Township of Valmore, Empire Township, Glen Arbor Township, Casson Township, Leelanau Township, Leland Township, Solon Township, and Sutton's Bay Township. The county clerk is authorized to sign said agreement.
Support. Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion approved 7-0. Thank you,
Okay,
Michelle.
thank you.
We now have item B on our agenda, and we do have Dr. John Skolton here, and Darcy's here, and our Personnel Committee Chair is here. So Cameron, why don't you introduce this, and then we'll let them take it away.
Sure, so it was brought to our attention, I believe in October, from two employees, County Planning Director Trudy Gala and Under Sheriff Kiesel, that the employees were really asking for a platform to be heard. And they suggested an outside firm to be hired by the county to help gather information and help us develop a plan to go forward to help create a more positive environment for all working at the government center. So the personnel committee has taken this recommendation to heart, and we have done our due diligence working with HR director. We did identify 3 potential firms. One chose not to submit a proposal, or just wasn't a good fit or timing for their, actually they were in Traverse City too. So that was a little bit of a disappointment, but we had 2 proposals given to us 2 days ago at our second personnel meeting. Mr. Schulten and Amy Sell from Amy Sell via Zoom. We listened to both proposals. We received some input from the 2 employees that brought the idea to us. And we felt very confident that the Michigan Leadership Institute was a good match for our situation in our county. And we are very optimistic that this is a positive step forward that's going to help us identify our challenges and our strengths and how we can work together as a team to create a better atmosphere for all. So I can open it up to any questions that you might have of the chosen proposal that we want to recommend to you. Glad you're right here to answer the questions.
I'd be more than happy to give an overview too, Commissioner Ross, if that would be helpful for those that weren't present possibly.
Please,
Okay.
please.
Thank you.
Well, thank you once again for the opportunity to speak with you today. Let me tell you just briefly a little bit about Michigan Leadership Institute. Michigan Leadership Institute was started in the mid to late 1990s by Dr. Tim Quinn. Dr. Quinn was, if you recall, those of you that have been around for a while, was the president of the college. He'd come from Wisconsin. He was a cheesehead before. He was at Madison not Madison, excuse me, Green Bay, slipped there, be careful. But he was the superintendent of schools in Green Bay. Tim did a really nice job at the college. I had the opportunity to get to know Tim during my time that I worked for the Glen Lake school system and have stayed really close with him over the years. He's a mentor and just a good person. Tim built this organization up. It was then sold to another individual who worked with him. And that individual built it further and then was purchased about 3 years ago by Genesee Intermediate School District, which is located down in the Flint area. What we do is primarily, we work with boards and leadership teams. Primarily, we work with school systems, but we also work with municipalities as well, like the county here. We do searches, we do academies to grow and create leaders, because there's a somewhat of a loss right out there as far as candidates that want to get into leadership positions. We do executive coaching. So we coach and we work with those leaders. We do governance workshops across the state, in the region, working with boards like yourself and just helping boards understand their role compared to their leadership team's role. We help with searches in a lot of areas. We help with sinking fund bond issues. Strategic planning is a big thing that we work on. We do community forums. We work with groups on succession plannings. We work extensively in negotiations as well. And we work, last but not least, in climate and culture building. So maybe just a little bit of background of myself, of where my experiences have been from here. I officially retired as the superintendent of the public schools of Petoskey 4 years ago. And I was quote unquote successful with retirement for about 1.5 years. Individuals saying, well, come work for us, do these kind of things. I had a mentor that said the smartest thing you can do when you retire is just do your volunteer work and say no to anything new for the first year. And I succeeded at that. MLI is a group that had an interest in me and I had an interest in them. So for almost 3 years now, we've been working together and doing a lot of different projects. And I actually have enjoyed it because it's nice to get back into the mix of things and hopefully to help out is what it's all about. So my background, just so you know, I spent 37 years in education. 33 of those years, I was in a management leadership role, be it building level principalship on through superintendent. I spent 23 years as a superintendent in the state of Michigan, I'd say pretty effectively, successfully, for 2 districts, Maple City, Glen Lake for 9 years, and then Petoskey for 14 years. During those 23 years, and actually during the time as a principal too, I worked pretty closely with boards like yourself and worked with, employees, groups of employees. So I think the 33 years experience I can bring and do bring to the table is helpful. You may look at it and say, well, wait a minute, that's all in school business. But if you really look at the parallels between what you all do and what schools do, they're pretty similar. There's a lot of commonalities there. When I was approached, or we were approached by your HR department to put a proposal in for this, it was pretty clear what you were looking for was an independent approach to this. So some of you may have some concerns that, well, can you, John, be independent when you actually were a resident here for 14 years? Honestly, it's been close to 20 years since we've been a resident here. It was extremely, and it still is an extremely special place to raise a family, to live, work, and play. And I think our kids got a great start here. We moved our kids, our oldest was going to be a junior in high school and our youngest was going into 5th grade. But the experiences here in this county were pretty phenomenal. You are a special place, there's no question about it. So I took it a step further because honestly, I didn't want to get into something, and I'll, full disclosure, I've known Chet for a long time too. And, we're friends professionally and personally. We don't spend a ton of time together, but we get together. We actually even played a little golf this summer, which was nice. So I've been kind of cued in a little bit watching it, and I still do read the Enterprise. We have 2 kids and 2 grandchildren in Traverse City. So I typically pick up the Enterprise and read the Enterprise when I'm in town. And I just still have people that are around. A lot of people are gone and retired that I used to work with, but you still have connections. So you kind of keep what's going on. But I took it a step further and I thought, well, I wouldn't want to come in front of you and suddenly be biased. I looked at the list of your, 120 some employees. And to be honest, I recognized about 3 names. Now there's some common names in this county. Okay. but they weren't people that I knew or worked with firsthand. They're relatives, cousins, whatever it may be. And I kind of looked at, well, Jenny Zawicki there. I think she was Jenny Budd when I knew that, you're right.
Yes.
And
That's correct.
she might have had a brother who had a little bit of, no, I won't go there, right? So Eddie, but a lot of history. It was fun. We were back playing golf at Sugarloaf, the old course this summer one time. And it kind of felt I played golf with Mike Hill and my son. And it was like stepping back in time because there were families and people that worked there. So I just feel there's a special place in my heart for your county. If there's something I can do, we can do to help you, we're all on board about it. So as far as the independent part of it, I really feel that that time away and the fact that there really isn't any serious connections with any of your employees that I know. And honestly, as a board, I think Melinda might have come on the board about when I was leaving. You've been on for a number of years, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, but the rest of you, it's just been a pleasure just to meet you recently. I gave Mr. O'Rourke there a little bit of a hard time. I said I never was on the wrong end of the law of what I recall with the county. But I know that Jim had spent time in the school and worked with us with student issues and school issues. So I think that as far as from the independent piece is pretty solid. I can talk about the process that we presented to, if that would help, Gemma. Okay. So I take it to heart, and I'm speaking from my personal and professional experience. I'll put the emphasis on the professional. I do commend you for moving quickly on this, but also recognize the importance of it being independent. If you want and you truly desire, very candid, very genuine and honest feedback, that's the best way to approach it. I've done a lot of this stuff over the years, and I do it in the search work and the work I do right now. If I ever approach this in any of those jobs where I have, be it a board or a superintendent or whatever, sitting by my side, I can't bring you the feedback that you need and you desire. You need to have it independent. The other part of it that's really important, and I'm going to be blunt like I was with the personnel committee, it has to be to the point when I talk with your employees and meet with them, and hopefully the majority of them will be face-to-face, that they understand that what they say is their anonymity is going to be held intact. If you want me to come into this and tell you what employee said what, honestly, I'm going to step back and say, I'm not going to do it for you, because it's not going to serve the purpose that you outlined and that we wanted to try to deliver for you. The approach should be pretty simple. And Commissioner Ross said, and a few others, that you want to get started quickly on this. We could get started very quickly. There's probably 3 specific areas of basically I would develop a format to, glean information for you. Those specific areas, I'm going to start on the positive side. I think you need to hear that too. I know, having lived and worked here and raised kids here, it's a special place. All right. There's a lot of great things that are going on. And the thing I don't know, I haven't been an employee of the county, but I think it's a good place to work. Okay. I know that. So I will start out with probing and getting responses on what's positive about being an employee in this county. The flip side of that is I would probe on finding ways that employees feel challenged. What are issues that you have to deal with? It's not going to be real scientific and fancy, because I don't think you get the results you want then. It's going to be what in a survey format would be open-ended questions to a degree. Okay. So people would tell me from their head and from their heart how they're feeling about things. Okay. The third thing that I would want to reach out for them is if they had 1 or 2 really pressing issues that they felt they needed this consultant to bring to the Board of Commissioners, what would those things be? All right. I then would gather all of that information. I'd use a format that would be, there'd be some quantifiable data. In other words, quantifiable being maybe there's a few questions that would say, how do you feel about the climate culture? Is it in great shape? Is it all right? Or is it fractured? So I can quantify for you that 75% of the people felt this, or 25% felt that. But the majority of, I think, the data that you need is qualitative, and that is the open-ended questions. All right. And then I would glean that information and I'd bring that back to you in a report that said, here appears to be the root of what the issues are for you in the county that you're looking for. Okay. So that would be phase 1 of this study. And my hope is that if we're going to move forward with this, that we could start this process very soon, maybe as early as late next week. Okay. so that we can start getting this information, because the holidays are going to get in the way. And I also realized that, having done this work enough, not just with MLI, but as a school superintendent, that not everybody's going to be able to make it to a meeting, nor do they necessarily want to see face-to-face, though I think the face-to-face approach is the best way. And it is one-on-one is the best way to do this, okay? With that anonymity guaranteed. And then for those that can't, I would have this very similar, if not identical approach as an online approach, so that we can get as much input from all the employees as possible. I believe that's, Darcy, what you were looking for, and Commissioner Ross is what you were saying as well.
And with the information that you gather, you're gonna help us identify priorities and help us.
Right. I would present to you in a report format, and we can determine when you want that. It might be a little aggressive to say before the Christmas holiday that it's going to be in a report format, but I think it's not aggressive to say the first of the year that we sit down. Now, prior to that holiday, we might be able to come forward with, here's what you have. And then we identify the priorities where I would be with you. And I use the term respectively, holding your hand and saying, here's your highlights. Now, anytime you do a study like this or any type of survey research, you're going to get what we call outlier things too. I wouldn't hide those. I would provide those to you. Comments that are, when I say an outlier, they're totally inconsistent from other things, be it good or bad, but you're still going to get that. I think that's part of what these people take their time to spend time with me or do the online survey. We've got to guarantee that you're going to see the information, but then I would help you guide and prioritize what the top areas are of concern. It's your study, but you're using an independent firm to help you come to that conclusion. So nobody can accuse you as a board. This is why I'm trying to protect you as a board. I would be your client. I'm not your employee's client, but it's important that we're independent. We bring it to you and then I help guide you. Ultimately, it's your decision. What do you want to do with this? Now, my push, if we put this kind of energy into it, is to say, do something with it. You told the employees that you would listen to them, you'd listen to them independently, but you got to take it the next step further, which would be another plan to say, now what are we going to do with it? You got to see the root of the issues before you can move forward.
So, then would be there. I really think you were first.
We're
all trying to get along done.
Let's follow protocol, please.
Oh, no, she could, I'm good with that, that's okay.
Gwen?
So the conflict resolution part, would you be able to play a part in that?
Sure. If you want me to, I would be more than happy to. As I told you the other day, I'm not intimidated at, 33 years of it. You don't think, the bottom line is, you start with that positive question, the great things going on. There's a reason why we call it work, right? It's still work. Work isn't always positive. You think it's all roses and, tea and cookies. It's still work to a degree. So yeah, there's ways to find a way through that. And, I'm not afraid of conflict resolution. And sometimes I think difficult discussions are the most important thing they're missing in our work world today.
Can I just add one thing before, just to follow up? We did hear from two companies, and the difference between Michigan Leadership Institute and Amy Sell, who was also sounded excellent, is his ability to be here talking to employees. Amy Sell was only going to do an online survey. They are in Ann Arbor, so there would have been no one on. And that piece, I think, is very, very important. And I think
Mr. Kramer?
All this resonates with me. My company, we just go through the National Science Foundation's iGrow program. So I hear you when you're talking about your qualitative research and really digging into pain points. I think that's all really important and rang true. As you probably are well aware of, we're probably dealing with a climate and culture issue. And so what I would like to know as a board member who's, interviewing you really is what you believe your successes and failures have been in the past and what you can bring to us. And before we go into that, I'd also like to reiterate to the board and to everyone here that time is of essence, because I think this speaks to our employees that we care and that we're moving forward. So I do think that being timely in this position is really important for all of us. But could you speak to that, the successes and failures? Because I think it's important to hear both and what you gleaned from your failures.
You know, let me step back a little bit with some of my training, which came along the lines when I was working. My dissertation my doctorate was focused on relationships and building high effective teams and getting results. And the research was pretty clear, and the support to the work I did, which was a lot of qualitative research, was those successful operations were operations that there were pretty good relationships, i.e. working with management and the teams, okay? Good communications of that type of thing. And I knew that somewhat going in, but it was solidified to the doctorate, okay? So my successes with it, but let me put it back to when it's work, there are things to accomplish. If we go across anything and we think because you're pushing the envelope to say you've got to move forward, that everybody's always happy to get on board, they're not. So if you go into it with that, and if I'd done that in my 23 years as a CEO for that matter, I don't think I'd have succeeded. Were there failures? Sure there were. The majority of the time when there were failures, I would say was probably because maybe I didn't listen quite enough. However, you can't spend all your time just talking, listening. You got to make decisions sometime and move forward. But those were pretty few. The successes probably, I mean, there are a lot of people that will ask me at retirement, what are you most proud of? And, you know, the things that people probably would say, at least with my 14 years in Petoskey, is you built one of the nicest athletic facilities where we brought everything on campus in Northern Michigan. And that's great. 2 years in, we tried to do a bond issue and it failed when the housing, remember in 07, 08, when the housing market did that? We had a really good campaign. It was a great facility, but the housing market, who would have known it would have, you know, dropped out, and people got afraid and they voted no. So we lost by 300-400 votes. We listened to the community. We went back at it and we said, what is it you want to know differently? And and some were pretty critical of me. They're like, you got to get right back on it. I said, I can't until we find out exactly what our community is going to support. Okay. And we did, and we had a successful campaign then 5 or 6 years later, and we built this. And the biggest thing for me was to bring the safety for having kids on our campus. But it was a $20 million type project. And it was, you know, was it necessary? Yeah, a lot of our facilities were close to 100 years old and they weren't on campus. But I'm proud of that. I feel good about that. But you know, the thing I probably feel most proud of is I spent leading schools in a decade of some of the worst funding of schools in the state of Michigan's history. And we still got through and thrived and succeeded. Okay, we grew, we got better every year. When the funding was terrible, when we had $500 per pupil executive cuts, I didn't sit and gripe about governor such and such. I wasn't happy with it, but it's like, what are we going to do to get better? That's probably through good conversations and negotiations and just working through. I mean, in situations like that, you can't give out big pay raises. You know, you have to deal with that. That's probably what I'm most proud of throughout my career, and that we were able to do that. And I don't mean holding employees' wages down. I think anybody you talk to in both school districts would say he was fair. Okay. And he took care of us. Now, did they always agree with me? No. The majority of the times they were on board with it. So a lot of times they think higher of you when you're already gone too. So, but no, if that makes sense to you, Commissioner Kramer, that's kind of the big part of it. So my takeaway from that is, you know, it's still called work. What you're dealing with, whatever this climate culture issue is or isn't, it's still work. They work for the county, but there's something in there going on that is causing some, and just tough feelings. So I think our job with them would be to say, how can we delve into this and get the information and help you have the data and put it forward into a plan to say, what can you do to improve it and move it forward and to get it to where you want it to be? Does that answer the question? Does that help? Okay. Thank you.
Any other commissioner questions? Commissioner Lauder?
So time-wise, for the survey, time-wise, how long did you think that was going to take?
Well, I kind of told, Darcy here, I said, and Cam a little bit, I said, let's wait until we get it approved. Okay, I've had some conversations with her that I believe if everything lines up, I could start potentially with what we call focus groups, the one-on-one interviews as early as the latter part of next week. The survey, the online will take a little bit longer. I'm already in contact with our people to get it developed. I believe the online survey could be potentially up and running, available to put out to people. My push would be to get the people to come see me face to face in November. And then we would channel out that survey, which would be the same questions I'd ask out to the employees so that we could have all that taken care of the first to the middle part of December.
Okay, so you're saying that you would do focus groups ahead of the survey?
Yeah, because the focus group's gonna be individual one-on-ones. That we can start that,
Okay. Do you
ASAP.
feel like you need focus groups to do the survey?
No,
Because I see this in two parts, and we talked about a survey, and this now has morphed into focus groups for our employees.
don't let the focus group term put you in a back tail spinner, okay? The focus group stuff really is a form of surveying. It's getting information from your people. The online survey is for those that can't meet with me in person. It's the same thing.
So can I offer a little, after doing the National Science Foundations, that was specifically highlighted to us. We need to have face-to-face. It's super important to interview face-to-face. There are different answers that come from an organic conversation between two people that would not necessarily come from something online or a survey. So I think that is a really important direction for us to go to if we really want some unbiased information, quality information.
Commissioner Butler. you're
May I have
still
the
on.
floor back? Thank you very much. So these focus groups, you would be talking to every single employee that would talk with you?
We will put an invite, so moving forward, I believe,
And elected officials and department heads and commissioners?
no. Elected officials, unless I'm told differently, are not part of that to go through the focus group. It's the employees is what I was told, okay, that we're surveying the
So we're all
employees.
employees of the county. So I think it's very important that you talk to every department head and every.
I just need direction. This is yours, not mine, okay,
Thank you
so.
very much for that. So, because I asked for input on the survey questions, and as I understood it, those were questions you yourself come up with and no one else. So we would not get, as a board of commissioners, wouldn't receive the questions before they go out. They're just what you come up with and you would put out there.
That's usually how we do that work, yes. Just so that people are not, i.e. your employees aren't feel.
Everyone, and not just one employee, because I know you mentioned that you've talked with HR, but I don't know who else you've talked with within the building. Before you come up with your survey questions, you would talk to everyone available to talk to you or was interested in talking to you.
No, that really wasn't my intention. Nor would it be the way we do
So
business.
that you're doing focus groups before you come up with your survey.
No, the survey questions are all established and in place prior to any type of focus group or one-on-one.
Survey questions.
Well, I think I just gave you an overview of the three areas I would put the questions together in.
You did, but you haven't talked with anyone in the building other than HR right now, is that correct?
I've talked to Kama, who is the head of the personnel committee.
One commissioner.
Okay, I would need direction from you as a board, or she will, if that's the case. That's not how it was presented to us.
So,
So,
all right, thank you for answering that.
but I think
Right off the bat, I guess what happened. So.
what may I add a little more? You're looking to hire a firm to do this work for you. And I believe that's where my focus is. You want this firm to do the work for you. Otherwise, I would suggest maybe just you do it as a board, but
I'm okay with this survey. What we need to do is get down to brass tacks, because this courthouse is deeply divided. Deeply divided.
the research
know
that
it-
I've done over the years, be it with MLI, be it with the superintendency, is by approaching it through that qualitative questioning, broad, open-ended, people will spill their guts to you. I will get your quote unquote brass tacks that way.
Commissioner Layford.
Excuse me?
Well, let's make sure everybody gets an opportunity. We'll come back to you.
I'm sorry.
You don't vote, anyway.
So,
Well, let's, Commissioner Retro.
I just want to clarify my position on this. I do fully support the implementation of this. My objection was to process and form. In as much as I would have liked to have seen it go on the way we said we would through executive committee. I do respect the timing function. So although I voted against putting it on the agenda, the board has ruled, since they said, so I'm just going to publicly state I support going forward with this.
May I speak? Because that was one of my comments and I was trying to, no, I had the floor and the chairman took it away from me.
And
So excuse me, that really is a
it's-
point of
it's-
order, because that was my very next point.
It's a chairman's job to make sure that all commissioners have an
Yes,
opportunity
it
to
is,
discuss.
but we don't cut off one commissioner because nobody else, I waited. There was quite a pause and nobody else had a comment. So if I
Raise a
may
point
just
of
say
order,
this one
please.
thing, may I
Commissioner
clarify?
Lautner,
We clarify the timing.
I'm going to go to Commissioner Ross and then I'll come back to you. Everybody needs an opportunity to be a part of this discussion.
Yes,
Commissioner Ross.
Thank you. I would just like to share that this survey the questions need to come from an outside source. We can't dictate the questions because that's bias built into a system that we're trying to get around. So I totally support hiring a firm to create the questions and give us the data that we need to move forward. And I would be adamant about us getting involved in the question,
Well, not,
getting involved in that. Thank you.
can I just? I know-
You and then Commissioner
So
Lautner.
just to ask
Okay.
specifically, and I think that just answers the question, you are not going to be guided in any way by any staff or person of the questions and form of them or function. You're going to develop them completely independent, correct? There's no one here giving you influence to find things, just to try and satisfy Commissioner Loebner's concerns.
Unless I'm told differently as a board, my objective is to put together a climate culture survey so we can get to the root of what the issues are.
Which is the only way.
And let me say it again, the focus groups, the one-on-one individual focus group, whatever we want to call it, will be the same exact questions that will show up on the online survey. So that they're not two different instruments, they're the same thing.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lautner.
So you say you're going to come up with an independent survey, but based on what, if you're looking at the climate culture of this building? That's the point I wanted to make, is that you've only talked to a couple people in the building, but yet you're going to put the survey together. Based on what?
Oh.
Do you have a boilerplate survey you do to go into a school? Is that what you're going to be using? It's a boilerplate?
I won't use the same boilerplate that I do with superintendent searches or whatever, but it's a very similar format, okay? The pluses, the positives, the challenges or negatives, and then what specifics need to be shared with the Board of Commissioners. So by-
after you get the survey back, then you're going to do your focus groups?
No,
Now,
no, I'm sorry, I don't know where let me try to clarify as much as possible.
so are you doing focus groups first or survey first?
Focus, we'll be doing some will be happening at the same time, depending on the schedule of it, okay? But it's the same question. One is just in person, the other's an online approach. It's the same questionnaire, it's the same exact
If you
approach,
said
it's
two
just
different
personal.
things, that's what I
Well,
want to make, yes.
Yep, that's why I didn't want anybody to
So
confuse on the
talk
word
about a
focus group.
survey and then you're talking
Okay.
focus groups, so you'll be running them simultaneously.
At-
Your understanding.
No,
Yes,
that's what he said,
No.
based on my question, excuse?
I will start
But
I would start probably with face-to-face individuals if we can schedule them sooner than later. But it'll be the same questions that once the online becomes available, then because right now, if you give people just the opportunity to come in and do an online, they more than likely don't sign up to come see you face-to-face. That's the easier way out. I think you can get deeper, you can get a better read if you go face-to-face.
Commissioner
And you
Roy.
said what, then one more question, Mr. Chairman?
Look, I will allow it, but I
Okay,
think we
you
really need to limit our.
You said early as late next week.
Depending on the scheduling here, what I'm going to rely on, I have no connections to say, get with your employees. I'm going to have to rely, I'm assuming Darcy to make those appointments.
Action on Tuesday would have been fine for you to begin end of next week.
The 21st would have been.
No, I'm talking about Tuesday.
Change it.
You've made your point on that.
Okay.
Commissioner Work.
Look, after listening to Mr. Schultz, I get a real kind of a comfortable feeling that this is good, this is going to work out. We can sit here and damn argue all day, but I'm calling the vote right now.
Wait, you don't have a motion on the floor, can you please?
If
We're not doing
a
discussion.
commissioner is called for a vote, all those in support of calling for a vote?
Whoa, real quick, can I just clarify with something, because I feel
Yeah,
like one of our
I think you made a
commissioners is
motion,
not.
so we just,
I'm calling for the vote right now.
is there a second to Commissioner Work's motion to call the vote? Call the
I
question?
mean, I would like all of us to be on board first and just explain something.
Thank you.
Can I please finish my comment real quick? Just because I feel like clarifying would help a little bit in this moment.
Okay, I will do that, but I believe that we need to be careful that we respect that the process was well vetted. We have a doctorate
All of
in
it.
relationships, making a proposal.
I don't have a motion.
Was Commissioner Rourke made a motion and was there a second to that motion?
Motion to
To call the vote.
It's been moved and seconded to call the vote.
But we
You
can't.
don't
I
have a
need to
motion.
take, I don't have a motion. This
We
has
need to
all
first
been
have
discussion.
something
And I
No,
have-
nobody moved
To
to,
call the question.
okay.
Oh, I support.
Okay,
If we call the question, then we will do the motion to correct.
I think,
I don't, but I'm gonna take a moment and I can check with Michelle.
Okay, could we take a couple minute break here?
Okay,
And
thank you. I'm closing the meeting.
Okay.
What we cannot
And it's
do
fine.
is we have three commissioners talking at the same time, and we cannot do our business that way. And I cannot allow as chairperson, one commissioner to monopolize the conversation. I cannot allow two people to talk at the same time. I would ask your support in doing business in a regular order of business. Now, I suggested we give if you're willing to withdraw your motion, I suggest we give everybody the opportunity to speak one more time. Say what you have to say, then let's get a motion on the table, which we probably should have had in the first place,
that's,
and then we will do our business. In fact, could I have a motion?
let's do that.
Could I have a motion? Yes, Commissioner O'Gara.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners recommend and approve a contract with Michigan Leadership Institute to conduct an employee climate culture survey.
Funds to come from.
Funds to
How about cost?
come from,
At $6,500,
It's in, they didn't write it in their motion, but the account number's there, but the amount's not. So typically you would have funds to come from 101, 100, 101, 96700, not to exceed 6,500. Is that how you want that written, Darcy? It's fine.
you got it.
Support by,
Support.
So moved and seconded, are we ready to vote or do you want to discuss?
discuss.
Discussion? Could I ask for just, let's make sure we don't beat it to death. Let's say what we need to say and then we'll take a vote. Commissioner Kramer?
I'm a pacifist. I don't need anything. I just would like to help Melinda clarify, because I have on my own been a part of this. And really, I mean, workshopped the crap out of how to do this. It's not about the questions. It's about holding space. You don't want to lead people. You want to receive data. So it's listening and learning, and it's not about even really cultivating the questions as much as it is about listening and really getting that information from people and gleaning that. So I think that is kind of a misnomer right now, that there's this absolute structure that needs to exist. The data comes from the listening aspect of that, and I know it seems very foreign to some people, but it is, and just so I really want Commissioner Lautner to understand that's it, and I'm hoping that's the direction that you're going to take.
It is. It's maybe we should have called a listening tour then if I know more of your history.
Yes, exactly. It's more about the listening. It's less about the telling. So everyone understands that in this room. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Ludden?
So what I want you to understand is that what we have going on here, and this has nothing to do with you, we agreed on a survey, it was supposed to come to the full board. So we set up a committee structure here, and we made it very clear that our recommendations were supposed to go to executive board. So what we have done here is circumvent the public by sending anything to executive allows 1 week. We spelled this out. It allows 1 week for us to hear from our constituents. Do we want to spend $6,500? Or do we want to do, something different? Our voters don't even know what we're doing here. Half of them don't even know why we're concerned about this. The other half might be. But so what we've done is we've just said, okay, we meet on one day, let's approve this the next day in a special meetings. Special meetings should be for our very most important things and things that cannot wait. Special meetings shouldn't be for something we hear about the very day we're going to approve them. So we've said, well, we don't need to hear from our constituents. We're just going to go ahead and approve this in a special meeting, circumvent executive. I'm not done, Mr. Chairman, and you cannot cut me off because I have the floor. So I'm
believe
going
we've
to
heard your
finish.
concern,
So
Commissioner.
what we've done is we circumvented the process of hearing from our public. And now we're going to go ahead and approve this in a special meeting. And then we wonder why there's a deep division within our courthouse. So is this how we're going to do business from here on out? We're going to meet next week for executive. We heard the proposal today. We easily could have done this special meeting Tuesday if we did not want to wait for the next week. That would have given all of us a week to have looked into this further and to have talked to our voters before you go and approve this with no further input.
Your concerns have been heard.
Call
Commissioner
roll.
Ross?
Yes, it is our most important asset, which is our county employees that we're talking about. And we have been hearing from our county employees for years that we need to do something. We have data from listening sessions that took place in September 15th of 2022. We have data from this year. We need to act on this. And if I'm understanding the process correctly, we would look at it on the 14th, but it couldn't be acted upon until the 21st, if I'm not right. So that does set us back.
Then you didn't listen to what I said because I just said this special meeting could have been Tuesday.
And
So I was not
You
heard.
made that point, and I would
Oh,
ask
thank you. I
you.
thought I made my point.
So I respectfully understand that
Thank you.
this, thank you.
Are we ready to vote? All those in support of the motion on the floor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1. I do understand Commissioner Lautner's concerns, but I'm sure glad that we've honored the suggestion from our staff. And I'm glad we have the expertise of Dr. Schultz. So thank you.
5-minute break.
So this concludes our meeting except for public comment.
Well. Something about sandwiches.
Now, Mrs. Bell. Is there any,
Thank you, Doctor.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you very much and welcome.
You set?
thank you, Dr. Scott.
Okay, I'm gonna take the sunshine trip back home, okay?
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make public comment?
Brave souls.
Is it me?
Thanks. Just leave it right here. Just leave it up. Thank you. Thanks. Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. And just carrying on from what I was saying. Everyone thinks these tests are good, but those machines are black boxes. Michelle, over and over, mentioned that. I don't understand computers, but she understands the process. County clerks don't understand computers. They're not computer geeks. but the computers can be hacked, and they're hacked all over the country. And that's pretty easy to see. Many, many Democrats believe this in 2016 to 2018. We're the election deniers, but they weren't from 2016 to 2018 to 19. But all of a sudden, I think everything's hunky-dory. You might ask yourself, why would it change so quickly? And I hope each one of you look to all the citizens, 23,000 or so in Leelanau County, and put them first. Not what you want in an election, but you want to make darn sure that they're honest elections. And I would say that probably none of you, like me, not a computer geek. You don't know how they cheat on, these can be cheated on, but over and over it's mentioned. Michelle mentioned she appreciated the new mapping system. And yes, that's nice. But that's not the main thing. Verifiability in elections. We've got these cameras here, right? New cameras around campus, wherever. How come the most important thing, we don't have cameras on all that? Why don't we just have paper ballots, simplify everything? And you say, well, we can't do that because it's a constitutional amendment now or whatever that was voted in Michigan. Well, how did that happen? After the Secretary of State broke 5 laws, she's found guilty of breaking these laws in elections. She can't just send out all these applications, but she did. And how much of that helped determine that constitutional amendment? And if we actually see fraud in machines, shouldn't we really just stand up and say, hey, I don't care if there's a constitutional amendment or not, but we're not going to pay for this because we don't trust it. There's evidence everywhere about this. The maps are nice, but we want verifiability. The workers in all the precincts, they take an oath to the Constitution to defend the Constitution, foreign and domestic, against that. Is that happening? It's difficult how to make it all work. We'll go back to paper ballots, hand counted. We did it before. If it takes a little bit longer, they did it in Missouri. It took 10 minutes longer. They had 100% accuracy. How come in California, Shasta County, they were planning on doing a hand count paper ballot? They voted for it. That was the voice of the people. They had 20 other counties out there that wanted to do the same thing. Where did it come from the government then to say, oh, we're going to make this new law. You've got to use the machines instead. That's taking the vote away from the individual areas. So anyway, it would be so much simpler. There's four absolute evidences of election fraud. Dennis Montgomery, he has the PCAPs, and that shows evidence of fraud. He's the one that developed the hammer and scorecard, hammer to break into any computer system and scorecard to change the votes. He's the one that did it, and the government took it over. They used it for other countries, which maybe was fine. I don't know. We got a lot of people mad at us, but then start using it against the American people. The other thing is Jeff O'Donnell and the cast vote records. Those were established in the HAVA Act in 2002 to have the people understand how they can verify the election. But like half of the counties won't even give them out. How come? Is it ruled by and for and of the people? We got a major problem here. And there's a very simple solution. Voting one day. Voting one day. It was that way before, and all this COVID stuff changed things. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you all. Oh, Carrie Onan, Centerville Township. And thanks to everybody for your work. I'm always astounded by all the work you guys put through here. So I'm a little late to the party on this one. I was late finding out what this project was about. I wanted to say, to start out, I'm a massage therapist by trade. I think I've told most of you that already. And I really agree with Commissioner Kramer's point about creating space. If you want the truth from anybody, you must create space, which is what massage does. So what I've actually done for decades is professional listening, because people talk like crazy when you create that space. And I think it's critical to get the healthiest possible environment. This is awesome that you guys are willing to do this. And I take great exception to your process, because as Commissioner Lautner put very well, in spite of her efforts to shut her down, she made the important point for us that you're trying to unwittingly, I'm sure, and out of compassion for the people that have suffered as long as they have in a toxic environment. Please don't shut down an elected official in front of us. It doesn't bode well over the long haul for our trust of you. A lot of us are friends, family, neighbors of you, and we want to see all of you doing the right thing, not just for your employees. You may consider them your best asset. Please remember who you work for. Okay, you do work for us. Please remember that. We're so respectful of what you guys do. We're so supportive as best we can be. And we want to re-elect you and all of that. I'm a big fan of what you guys are talking about doing. Please don't keep us out of that conversation. I'm concerned about MLI. I didn't have time to do my due diligence, but the little bit I saw a skewed perspective from a life in education. He sounds like an awesome guy. I bet he's great at creating space, but having done it for decades and wanting to influence people to make better choices, to live healthier, I know full well that listener can very much influence the one talking. Listening is an active process. Don't kid yourselves and think it's not. So one way you can create space is with just that, the online survey. Let them know we're going to take action on what we read. Tell us, write a novel. We want to see everything you want to tell us. Create that space that way. You bring a listener in that hasn't been properly vetted. I take exception to that. I know who's on that board. And a lot of us disagree inherently with a lot of processes or a lot of approaches and of the people on that board. So a lot of us don't believe it's been well vetted. Give us a few days to talk to our elected officials. What you're doing here smacks of the kangaroo court. We don't want to see it here, not in our beloved county. We love this place. We want to be able to stand tall and know that we're doing the right thing, not just for these precious employees, but for every person that voted you guys in. And I do speak for people on both sides of the aisle on this. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
Jim Overstead, Leelanau Township. I heard a reference that the greatest asset we have here is our employees, which you know yourselves, you're among that. What I'm not really wrestling with myself, but I guess what I would add to that, or even trump that, is that I think the greatest asset here are the citizens and the residents of the county. It's the county that voted you in. Those that voted, those that can legally vote. Number one. Number two, it's the county that's actually paying everybody's salary, if I'm not mistaken. So I would think the county in and of itself is a pretty big asset. Point one. Secondly, in listening to what I've listened so far, there's a comparison that would I draw a comparison to the terms a survey and focus group, then survey. Get it. That brings my mind to listening to polls throughout my life from different sources, multiple sources. And I don't think I've listened to a source where sometime along the line, they referenced who they were getting a poll from in terms of what way it might be slanted. It's human nature. Who's ever running it is in control of it, regardless who's doing it. And when I think of focus groups, or I think of surveys, focus group. Who's in a focus group? Who's asking or leading the questions? Who's steering it? Somebody's got to steer it. You're the chair. You steer the board meetings. So somebody's got to steer it. How is it being steered? And from that information, it could just logically be assumed that some of the questions that are going to be posed on the survey might tend to be skewed or lean towards a certain area or to go down a certain tack to possibly achieve a certain outcome. It's only logical. It happens with polls. We've seen it all our lives. So I look at that as kind of a comparison to what we've already witnessed, how they can be manipulated or skewed, how they're directed, how they're driven, what's the meaning behind it, what's the motivation behind it. So is it really accurate? Is it necessary? Or what all is necessary? Rather than maybe, I'm just throwing this out, an off-the-cuff impromptu survey where nobody gets any advance warning of something. Tell me what you feel. Tell me what you think about this, this, and this, with no other input from me. No other input from me. What do you think about this? Going on what you've observed in your life to this point, what seems logical, what doesn't seem logical? Then infusing some type of management behind it. That's the best word I can come up with right now. Food for thought for rushing through any decisions that you might want to rush through, possibly prematurely. Thanks.
Any other public comment?
Yes.
Kathy Dillon? You got here just in time.
My name is Kathy Dawkins. I live in Leland Township. I was watching this at home. I just drove 20 minutes to get over here. Sorry. I am very unhappy with Commissioner Lautner. I have thought about this for months and years. About the behavior that I see exhibited by her.
Could,
I'll try.
if I could direct your comments to the board in general.
Okay.
And to the commissioner, please.
Okay. I think this board has been doing an excellent job. But when I see someone, is that okay, someone?
Please just.
Okay. But when I see behavior that is exhibited as that is a petulant child, it upsets me.
I think that's.
All right, well, let me go on, and I will, if you can cut me off and throw me out, okay? I think this survey is important. I think what you're doing is important. I want to see this continued. I want to see the toxic environment to go away. I want to see that happen here on the board also. And please act professionally as you have been doing. You all speak for us. A lot of us have been listening. A lot of us care about what is going on. And for me to hear that half the people in the county don't know what's going on or don't care upsets me, because that is not true. We are listening, we are caring, and we are watching. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any commissioner comment? Yes, Commissioner
Well,
Work.
I'm proud of the work that the personnel committee has done and the importance of getting it done. Definitely no regrets about today and my actions. objections and there's no committee actions. To bring people on board, it's a step, it's necessary. And also, we close tomorrow, and the Marine Corps was founded 248 years ago, which I was part of, so. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
You know, you go.
Just reiterating again, I do fully support the implementation of this study. I just hope that this board moving forward uses these exceptions extremely rarely, because I do want to preserve the integrity of the subcommittee structure. I understand the reasoning for this one, the board spoke, so I respect that. But I just hope we really carefully consider when we do this in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Kramer?
I'd like to echo Doug's sentiments. I just want to iterate to all of our citizens of the county that we've had employees in front of us in tears, and we are having some early departures that leave me personally questioning where this toxicity is coming from. And my concern is not only from a human resources person issue, but also fiscally. If we have these departures and we have to overlap with new employees because they have a ton of institutional knowledge that they're going to have to give other people, that's going to cost the county way more than $7,000. And so I think we need to keep costs in mind. And I think it's really important that we all think about that, because everyone, if you're concerned about the fiscal nature of this decision, I really hope you just kind of second guess that. And the reason that we need to move forward with it is because if we are going to prevent these departures, we need to do it now, and we need to figure out what the problem is in order to nip it in the bud and assist these employees in any way that we can. It's our responsibility. That's why we're here. And I think we are serving the citizens just as much as the employees by doing that. So thank you for all of your comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Algar?
I'd like to reiterate something I said at the Personnel Committee, and that it is one of the hard things about being a commissioner is you're so hesitant to spend money. It's such a hard decision to actually spend it. But this issue, our employees are our most important resource. And we need to spend this for the good of our employees. For many reasons that have already been mentioned. As far as, I really got this sense from Dr. Scholten, I'm not sure I have his name right, that he is gonna ask open-ended questions. So I don't think he's going to, I hear your concern about, trying to get specific information. I believe from talking with him that he understands they have to be open-ended. As far as comments about shutting down one commissioner, the job of the chair is very difficult. But as one of the other commissioners here, sometimes we don't get a chance to talk very much ourselves. So I think there has to be some consideration of each other on this board so that we all get a chance to be involved. And sometimes that becomes the job of the chair, so that we all get our fair opportunity to engage. And more comments can be made later in turn. But I think it's his job to make sure we all get a chance. So that's been a struggle sometimes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lautner?
Well, I hardly know where to begin, and I hope I'm not cut off. Several things. No one was opposed to the survey. I want to make that very clear. And if somebody wasn't listening, they weren't listening. My objections were to the process. And I made that very clear, and some people weren't listening to what the process could have been. My concern is to the taxpayers. It always has been. That is who I will sit up here every time and look out for, no matter what. And I really, really will try to stress that because I have in the past as well. My comment about the employee, about the public, I talked to as many people as I could when I knew this survey was coming up. My comment was to those I spoke with, they really don't care about a public survey. And that came from them and that did not come from me. Unfortunately, I could only hear from the ones I spoke to. The rest of my constituents that don't even know we're looking at doing this never had an opportunity to call me and tell me how they felt about it. So that is where that comment was coming, pure and simple. You know, the comment made, well, can't we all get along? So I take that to mean that we can all just be lemmings. I've seen that in the past. Okay, let's just vote yes on everything. Let's not even discuss anything. Let's cut commissioners off in the middle of comment because we don't like what we're hearing. I really don't think that's a good way to do county business. I will tell you today, I had a list of questions to ask and I waited. I paused. No one else spoke. That's when I took the floor. So it wasn't until I took the floor that then other hands go in the air. And that's fine. That's how the process is. But I also did take exception because this is not the first time that I have been cut off in comment. So once a commissioner does have the floor, they deserve the respect to be heard and not cut off. So will I be a lemming? I will not be a lemming. I will continue to look out for the taxpayers. I will continue to do the best that I can. I will continue to listen to my constituents and we will continue to go forward.
Thank you. Mr. Russ.
I do not want to be called a lemming, and I do not appreciate that. I have listened to more people than you have, I bet, in the last couple of weeks, trying super hard to listen, not talk, to listen, and that I'm not a lemming. I'm not a lemming.
Thank you. I get to make a commissioner comment and one of our public comments was that the chair steers, sometimes the chair steers poorly. So for my part in getting us off track today, I do apologize. All I will say is that the toughest part of being chair is making sure that everybody has the opportunity to have a voice. And sometimes I make mistakes, and for the mistakes I make, Commissioner Lautner, I will apologize. Motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman.
We are adjourned for 10